This is Seraflop's. This is one of his preferred champions as well. So we will be seeing Diego mid from Hawksbill, and we'll be seeing Smolder top versus Viacali from Mark. But Shogath mid versus Viego. This draft is amazing. And we're looking at, okay, there it is. We're finally not looking at a black screen. And we'll see if there's any early movements from either team. Iverngers look like they don't want to run into Astral infection in this level 1. They're gonna go for a classic spread right here. They have their mid laner guarding the mid lane entrance.
Oh look, someone's got a death wish.
We're about to find out if Astral Infection can scout out a little bit more and maybe look towards the top side of the map. Maybe he's trying to scout out Vajarvin. He's standing right on top of that entrance.
Minions have spawned.
I'm not sure if Hawksbill spotted him right here. Mari's gonna start on the other side of the map though. Yeah, and it does look like we'll have both junglers pathing towards the opposite sides of the map. Senna Tom Kench, while it's not the easiest lane to set up with, there is still very much an opportunity for Ezzy and Clefairy to get stuff going. I mean, the route from Vicenna basically guarantees a W from the Tom Kench, the Abyssal Voyage. So there's definitely potential there to get a CC lock going. Ezreal's not running cleanse on the other side. Not that it's required this game. Personally, I probably wouldn't go for it. But that does leave an opening for Astral Infection to get more out of this jungle attention. Both junglers really powerful early game, so we'll have to see who gets more out of their early game pathings. And just like that, we're back. I mean, the most intriguing matchup is definitely the one mid. And it's not very often that we see lane Viego. It's up versus the Cho'Gath. I mean, Viego should have a pretty big advantage here once he gets to Blade of the Ruined King. That should be a major power spike that gives him a lot of freedom to just trade. Ezreal and Soraka, while I expect these guys to eventually be losing out on trades, early game they can still definitely have the push. They will be able to get some damage onto this Tom Kench as well, so no problems there. And then there's the top lane matchup, which is also not very common in UNL, for sure. The Akali going up against the Smolder. Ooh, and Mark getting a lot of good trades off here. And the lane's moving towards him as well. Second wind and Dorn's shield definitely are both running right now. So Mark could be looking at an HP lead right now and could be pressuring Spore here a little bit. Now this ICW bot lane has to be careful. This lane is not pushed all the way up. And Seraflop could be finding his way bot lane very soon. Just finishing red buff, and this could be prime opportunity to just go for that gank. But first, we're going to see Amari ganking Spore. And what an EQ flash with the follow! Shuriken flip from the Akali. What a nice... just a nice combination from ICW. So well played mechanically. Everything just worked out. And now we have the gank from Astral Infection's jungler. The Cocoon lands, but it's Azzy? No, it's Tellerflop tanking the tower. So no problems there. Both junglers getting a lot done for their respective lanes. Yeah, sometimes we forget that Jarvan does have some mechanically intensive stuff going on, but what a nice trade right now from ICW. And that just forced out the heal. Clefairy definitely walking up too close here. That means trouble. Spore has a flop available. Or is it flap? Anyway, he flapped his wings to safety. The Smolder. Spore is doing just fine. But she could be seeing some trouble in the near future when this wave pushes up towards Mark a little bit more. But now, heavy trading in the mid lane as well. A lot of action on all sides of the rift. Mark is not letting up right now. What's going to be the next move for both junglers? Are they about to meet right here? The Ezreal gets snared. Uses Arcane Shift forward though. The Cocoon might just land on the Ezreal. Instead it lands on the Jarvan. So not as much of an opportunity to get a kill there. ICW want to keep things going. They almost get a kill. But it is very important that Imari's matching what Seraflop's able to do with this pressure. And for now it is the Iverngers bot lane with a small lead right here. Blaziken's opting for an early Bramble Vest in this matchup. I mean, I understand the vision, but I do prefer to just power into my most expensive items when I'm playing this champion. Especially when you're not looking to interact all that much anyway. Mid lane is just the one lane where you can get away with just building towards whatever item you want, not having to spec so much towards stuff specifically for lane. Astral Infection with an early rotation towards the grubs. They will get those. There's no response for ICW on that side of the map, but they are starting with Dragon. But it is caught out by the pink ward. And Viego's going to leave lane, and he's going to threaten a little bit here. They're going to make ICW a little bit anxious about this. They're continuing to hit this Dragon. AST looks like they want to fight this, but feels like they're a little bit unsure about this themselves. What a nice rupture from Blaziken. And it is a very good follow-up from Imari, and if the first kill lands onto Viego, can AST get something in return? No, they can't. Imari stays alive. And Cargilly is still putting out so much damage. It's just the Elise alive, but that flash is going to take her away to safety. But what a team fight from ICW. And AST still without any kills this game. Perhaps they took a skirmish that they weren't exactly prepared to fight for. Which is still not a lot of damage on that side of the map. I mean, Senna Tahm Kench will still take some time to scale. Diego not quite at his first item. Oh, that silence does screw up the Tahm Kench W, actually. I mean, Elise really desperate to get something going, but if the cocoon doesn't land, that's about as much as you can do, really. But Seraflop, he really wants to get more here. Cataclysm from Amari just saves the Soraka in time. The Wish comes out, too. You have to be careful. You gotta kite this out, and the Tahm Kench will not get that kill in the end. It's an extra 2 kills for Iverngers Civil War as they turn around another gank from the Elise. And Elise is one of those champions where, like, the early game does matter quite a bit. You want to be able to get things going, you are very reliant on your damage to be able to move into the mid game. If you're not getting into those spikes in time, your champion is not as valuable. Blazic is actually opting for Steel Caps and Bramble Vest. I mean, this does mean that he's basically untouchable in the lane as things stand, but like I mentioned before, it also means that his power spikes will come later. I guess with champions such as Jarvan and Ezreal, he doesn't really mind as much. I think those champions should be picking up the slack in the mid game. I mean, right now it's just a really, really solid mid game from ICW, but Astral Infection is one of those teams that just is able to take whatever happens in the early game, move past it, and just continue to play the game out. I feel like they're a very composed team. They showed that versus GGL when they were really on the back foot for a lot of that early game, and they managed to claw their way back in. So ICW, this is definitely not a game that they can classify as a win yet. The Heartbreaker comes out from Hogsbill here, and it had to come out. Otherwise, it would have just been a kill for either the ICW mid laner or the jungler. Unfortunately for Diego, I guess the feast was not ready at this point. The one positive for AST is that Smolder, aside from that one gank that ended up in a kill for the Jarvan, is actually doing just fine. Here comes the Elise though. Senna clearing out vision. But that ward is going to stay put. AST, they are patient, however. They want to get at least something out of this, and the Soraka will get caught by the CC chain. What a nice sequence from AST, and they finally get what they came for. But Spore is in a lot of trouble on the other side of the map, and Imari, once again, gets a successful gank off. This time, he gets Akali some help on the other side, and will just follow that up straight into the grubs. So it's gonna be a free-for-free grub trade. Oh, Cargilly. Nice buff with the Arcane Shift. That should be enough to keep him safe, but the Devourer comes out! He had 3 stacks of an Acquired Taste ready. Cargilly tries to fight it, but yeah, he was in a bad spot there. The Senna gets an important shutdown. These are some important little steps for Astral Infection to be able to stay in the game. They will be, I would say they will be quite reliant on this bot lane to like do a lot of work in the mid game to be able to set up for the rest of their team. But Spore now in so much trouble. This is just a straight up solo kill from Mark on the Akali, pulling no punches. ICW with the substitutes, they are definitely packing a bit of a surprise punch here. Winning in both side lanes. Kamari, the external substitute jungler, feels like he's just slot in very well for his team. The TP comes out for Astral Infection. They want to contest this. The Cocoon will miss from Howitzer, but he still is flashless. So there should be a kill eventually. Bot lane for ICW in a lot of trouble. Cargilly flashes out of there. But here potentially comes the response play from ICW. The Cocoon stops the Jarvan from moving forward. The dragon is already taken, however. ICW, that's 2 dragons already. And that's a quick stack check for Cho'Gath. He's sitting at 5, but he's only used 2 stacks on 2 or 3 stacks on, you know, the 6 stacks that he gets for free, basically off of minions or any kind of monster in the jungle. Going back to directed camera, as there may be some action still brewing in the bot lane. Both junglers meet once again. Viego right here could be caught in the rotation. He gets silenced and then silenced again. He's trying to stay alive. The Senna ult comes out and it's actually Astral Infection who makes the first kill. They move straight onto the backline. They go straight for the Soraka. But look at what's Cargilly doing on the other side. Clefairy quite low, but it will not matter in the end. Astral Infection finally get the skirmish that works for them. Really good stuff. They kept the Viego alive with everything that they had, and this is very, very good news for them. Oh, that does bait out the Smolder ult. Mark playing that intelligently, knowing that Smolder still had the escape available, but now it does mean that Smolder is under a lot of pressure here, even without his ultimate. He has to be able to walk up to the minions, and Akali will not give him that chance. Yeah, as mentioned in the chat, it does feel like the sins of the draft for ICW are starting to show. I mean, as good as your champions can be in this early game, there is a bit of a dip in the mid game for this Cho'Gath specifically, and they are quite reliant on this Ezreal to do a lot of work. But there's a lot of action in this top lane. I guess Imari will be able to get away with his flash. Both bot lanes still fighting. ICW posturing aggressively around this Herald, and it looks like they will get that in the end. Maybe Blaziken even gets an extra stack on his feast, if he gets there in time. Right now, ICW are still in a position where they can definitely get a win on the board. They play their cards right. The one thing I'm slightly concerned by is the lack of Tear of the Goddess on the Ezreal. Unless my scoreboard is bugged, there is no tier in that player's inventory, so not sure how I feel about that. I mean, tierless builds used to be a thing not that long ago, actually, on Ezreal. But it was like Essence Reaver into Navori Quickblades when that item was still around. And yeah, this just seems to be the classic Triforce Manamune build, except there's no Manamune. Not even a tier. Anyway, we have to stop that nerdy interlude because Ezreal is about to die right here. And yeah, that is just a combo you can't get away from. If the Cocoon lands, then everything lands afterwards. And Ezzy wants to keep things going, but the roam from the Cho'Gath comes in. The Jarvan's there as well. but there's not a lot of damage to secure a kill there. And while all of that is happening, the mid lane tier 1 just went down. And Sam on this Viego is really, really strong right now. He had that one early game setback, but now he's on Blade of the Ruin King, already going towards his second item, which looks like it will be... well, I think it will be Immortal Shield Bow. I'm pretty sure that is, the build path for this item, but feel free to correct me if I'm actually wrong on this. ICW setting up for his dragon, or at least trying to. The Herald will come out from Imari. Oh, the Abyssal Voyage almost landed. That was almost great timing from Ezzy, but Imari could still pay for this one with his life. He will, actually. They tried to get some kind of counterplay going as Astral Infection were setting up for his dragon, but it came in way too early. I saw the vision. You know, Ezreal was still bot lane, taking down that tier 1. Maybe if ICW waited just a little bit longer, they could have actually gotten the mid tier 1 as well. But it all just came a little bit too fast. And Astral Infection are now in the driver's seat this game. It's not an not really an enviable position for ICW to be in. We are still waiting for those spikes to come in. Blazic is actually opting for a Thorn Mail against his lane opponent. I mean, there's a lot of healing on the other side when the Viego actually gets going, but it's gonna take some time before you see something like a Heartsteel or a Warmogs. Mark is still doing just fine in the top lane. There's only so much he can do, and Smolder has the wave clear, but now maybe ICW finally go for the dive, but was healed from Mom and Vicenna's ultimate, actually making a trade 1-for-1. Mari wants to get some more action, though. He has Soraka healing him. Viego is confident he can keep this going because he has the jungler beside him. The Cocoon is going to not meet the target. Alistar with the bonus movement speed, able to maneuver around the Cocoon. But ASD, they want this play. They want at least one kill on the board because they actually lost mid-tier 1 in the process, and Cho'Gath is still pushing in the bot lane as well. So for ICW right now, it's all about just time, buying as much time as possible. But Root comes out, but one of the TPs is actually cancelled because it was on the tower. So that Blazica's TP just completely ineffective, and Mark also fails his Shuriken flip. So that is a very, very painful fight for ICW. They lose 3. And in a situation where they could have possibly gotten a good trade out of it, they just flounder in the skirmish. And Astral Infection, they build up their lead even more. They're going to steal some jungle camps while they're at it. And then they're going to take their bases. Yeah, it's really quite concerning for ICW. It's mostly this Ezreal that has to put up a lot of damage, and like the Manamune spike is the most important one. And we'll still have to wait a long time before that actually comes to play. Cho'Gath will be able to tank a lot of physical damage, but he's still quite susceptible to the Elise, who's actually doing quite fine for himself. I mean, Lichbane, Shadowflame, and then you have the percent HP damage that actually is present in Elise's kit. So, but Cho'Gath, even though he's stacking a lot of HP, he could still be, you know, susceptible to all the damage on Astral Infection's side. We're firmly in the mid game now, and it's actually Cargilly in the side lane versus the Smolder, but you have to be careful, because Spore is already quite strong. The damage is landing from Cargilly. That Q was quite important. That could have been the Mystic shot, but turned the 1v1 around. But still, Cargilly remains alive for now. But it does mean AST get that extra pressure down bot lane. It will end in a turret. Does ICW want to get the kill here? Knowing that Astral Infection have counterplay on the other side of the map, they could even go for the Baron. As a result, Blaziken may have a lot of health, but it's not enough health to handle 4 members of AST. Amari will trap the Smolder eventually. And what can AST do? The wave is not quite there yet. They will look for another pick onto Cargilly here. He has to know that AST is still around. You have to be careful around this tower. A lot of good damage onto the Viego. For a moment, I was concerned that AST would find an angle to actually go for the Baron when they saw a lot of movement down on the other side of the map, but for now, Baron is still standing. Still an opportunity for both teams to get it, but first, we're going to have a standoff in bottom river for this dragon. An Astral Infection should have priority going into this. A beefy Tahm Kench will not let them just walk in like that. Smolder on the other side. I feel like you would rather remain grouped if you're Astral Infection here. There's no reason to spread out too much versus a team like this, especially when Jarvan has a lot of threat into the backline. Mark is also looking, at least marking Ezreal and Soraka on the other side. We zoom out in a little bit, and we see ICW is trying to attack from multiple angles, but True Chop Barrage is good. Jarvan goes onto the Spore, and the backline dive is in full effect for ICW. Can Mark get at least one kill here? It's either a Senna or the Smolder. The Smolder still alive, but the Senna isn't. ICW actually winning out on this fight. Diego now trying to turn things around, but the Heartbreaker, he's not going to get the reset. And now he's in no man's land. He wants to get at least one reset here, but ICW will not let him. Oh, just barely onto the Jarvan, and he EQs into the fight. That was so crucial. That reset allows Astral Infection to turn the fight. That could have been so good for ICW. But that one mistake, that one reset from the Viego, just completely wins the fight for Astral Infection. And then the push afterwards. It could have all worked out if not for that one Viego reset. It just came down to inches. But it goes to show that Astral Infection, this is what makes a good team. Like, resilience is a very important part. Even, you know, when you're met with resistance, like, this is one of those teams that just does not budge and plays their own game regardless. And we could be looking at another pick onto the Soraka. The stun chain is relentless from Astral Infection. Howitzer dies for the 6th time this game. And this could be now an insurmountable lead from ICW's perspective. Feels like rough times ahead of them. That should have been a one fight for them. I mean, the Smolder will still die, but Dive Squad is still there for ICW. But the Viego will get his revenge in the end. And it's a 2-for-1 trade. The avenge the Smolder effectively. The first mid lane inhibitor will fall. All the pieces, all the domino pieces are falling right now. Astral Infection feels like they're in a bit of a freeform stage right now, just doing whatever they damn please on the map. They have this Viego that is extremely far ahead. The bot lane also pretty much scaled up if you look at it. I mean, Tahm Kench in a very good spot. He has the Senna behind him with the Enchanter build. It just gives so much freedom for the Viego especially to just go crazy in these fights. It's now a 9,000 gold lead. The Baron is coming up, and all signs are pointing to Astral Infection getting that one as well. But Sam is feeling a little bit feisty in the top lane, and he's going to get silenced and then potentially CC'd again. The Rupture lands. The Senna ult does not matter because Cho'Gath will just eat him alive, and that is a big shutdown. 1,000 gold going straight into Blaziken's bank. And it buys time for ICW. They will actually make the brave call to just go for the Baron. Seraflop is not there to contest, but this Baron is not going fast enough. Astral does not have the damage. I feel like Astral Infection should just be able to respond to this pretty easily. Seraflop coming in, Spore as well. They just catch the Soraka where she stands, the Cocoon, and then at least blows her up. AST, as expected, they don't even need the Viego, because they have the Smolder all scaled up and ready to brawl. ICW lose 3, and potentially also the Baron. Although first they could maybe look for some more picks on top of the fight that they've already won. Oh, but Senna has to be careful because she might just get nommed by the Cho'Gath. The Feast came back up, and Blaziken gets another one on the board. But that's going to be the end of his adventures in the top lane.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Spore is already so strong on the Smolder pick. We're looking at 276 on the stat counter. So the Execute is already online, while the Ezreal has still not stacked Muramana yet, 30 minutes in. It's a good effort from ICW. I'm just liking what I'm seeing, but yeah, at this point, AST are just... they're just a damn good team, it has to be said. It's really tough to beat these guys. They know how to stall, they know how to play out these fights, they have strong carries they can rely on. ICW have vision on this Baron. They will see Astral Infection started, but can they do something about this? They have Jargon with the Smite and Cho'Gath with Feast. So that is where Astral Infection have to be careful. They need to stop hitting the Baron and just go for the fight. That is exactly what they will do, as Spore is about to unleash all kinds of hell on ICW. Mark tries to dive in, but he's instantly denied. Viego is on the Soraka again. Howitzer does not have a fun time right now on Summoner's Rift, and Astral Infection, no matter where the camera pans, they're just winning. Wins on wins on wins. Okay, so Hogsbill will die here. A little bit of hubris, but it will not change the final result of the game. Astral Infection will be pushing these waves straight to the enemy nexus, and that's going to be the end of the game. AST moving to 4 wins and 0 losses in the standings. They had troubles in the early game, just like in the game versus GGDL, but this just feels like the trademark of this team. They are able to just regroup going into the mid game. They know they have strong carries to rely upon, so they just play a slow game, and eventually they find a window where they can just win the fight and just turn the game around just like that.